හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9 this Saturday the 24th of February 2024. To be or not to be, the final decision on the new electricity tariff proposal next week, says the PUCSL. Healing wounds. State Minister of Foreign Affairs stresses the need for power devolution to ensure sustainability and development.
And if we do not share political power, the politicians will always use that trump card of majoritism and appeal only to certain communities and certain sections.
Race to power. Political momentum picks up as elections draw closer.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසින් ලබාගත හැක.
This is Ada Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Ada Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Singha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Now in your top story tonight, as households and businesses are pushed to extremes in the face of rising energy costs, a spokesperson for the Public Utilities Commission claims that the Commission members are expected to convene a meeting to discuss the new tariff proposal on Wednesday, the 28th of February. At the meeting, the PUCSL is expected to give the final verdict on the proposed tariff reduction. The government expects to reduce the electricity tariff through the upcoming tariff revision. Initially, the CEB, via their proposal submitted in January, recommended a 3.34% reduction in electricity tariffs. However, the state electricity supplier recently revealed the possibility of a much larger reduction, hopefully alleviating a severe financial burden off the backs of the general public. Last Thursday, the Ceylon Electricity Board submitted a new proposal to the Public Utilities Commission, which outlined the possibility of a much larger reduction in electricity tariffs compared to the initial proposal submitted by the state electricity supply in January this year. According to the Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, the CEB expects to reduce rates to at least match the rates and percentages in October 2023. Accordingly, the CEB outlined the possibility of completely taking off the 18% tariff hike imposed on religious institutions, the 12% hike imposed on industries and hotels, and the 24% hike imposed on general purpose and government building sectors. Speaking to Ada Derana, a spokesperson for the Public Utilities Commission said they are scheduled to convene a meeting on the 28th of February to discuss the proposal for the tariff reduction submitted by the Ceylon Electricity Board. The PUCSL spokesperson added that a final decision on the electricity tariff revision proposal will be taken later that day. Since the implementation of electricity tariff hikes in October last year, concerns have been raised by members of the general public, including industrialists and service providers, who call the tariff structure unbearable. During a recent meeting of the Parliament's Sectoral Oversight Committee on Alleviating the Impact of the Economic Crisis, attended by officials of the Ministries of Finance and Industries, the PUCSL, the CEB, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and the Department of Census and Statistics, it was revealed that as at the 31st of December 2023, 1,069,000 power lines were disconnected as power and energy costs rose to record highs. According to the chairman of the Sectoral Oversight Committee, Gamini Valeboda, 250,000 factories closed down last year due to electricity tariff hikes, with 14,000 of them being permanent closures. He went on to say that 50,000 factories that temporarily suspended operations are yet to decide whether to restart their operations or not. Now, after surpassing several chapters of history written in blood and tears, Sri Lanka is still mending its past mistakes and gradually making strides towards inclusivity. Drawing special attention to those dark episodes of history and Sri Lanka's journey towards progress, State Minister of Foreign Affairs Tharaka Balasurya stressed on the need for power devolution and went on to say that politicians will appeal to only a set of communities if this matter is not addressed. Speaking at a panel discussion of the Raisina Dialogue 2024 in India themed Fractured Politics, Is Development a Casualty of War?, State Minister Balasurya also highlighted that inclusive development is crucial, while also stating that power devolution as well as inclusive development must be addressed to ensure Sri Lanka's sustainable development.
what is the shrinking that happens of the fiscal and the policy space during conflict? And what is really the greatest part of prosperity that is at risk in that process?
As you are aware that in the mid-1980s, we had an ethnic conflict. Before the ethnic conflict, we spent about 0.5% on our military expenditure. This increased to about 3.2% in 1985, and it increased to almost 6%, 5.9% in 1995. Our military spending in 1985 was $188 million US. By the end of the war in 2008, this expenditure was $1.5 million. Sri Lanka in the 1980s and in 1990s, when compared with the other South Asian countries, our social development indexes were better than all of the other countries. And the policy space and the fiscal space which we could have used for development, which we had to spend on the military.
Recommendations that you would have on how we balance the development priorities of all countries in the context of conflict?
In Sri Lanka's case, although we all believe in democracy, we have to be careful of majoritism. One thing which took place in the 1970s was the educational reforms which took place in Sri Lanka, which discriminated certain communities, which led to those communities taking arms. So I think we have to be very careful that although in democracy we believe in majority, that the development has to be inclusive development. It can't be development which is limited to certain section of the people. And I also think that we as a country, and in order to forge ahead, needs to share political power. And if we do not share political power, the politicians will always use that trump card of majoritism and appeal only to certain communities and certain sections. So I think this needs to be addressed, and also to have sustainable development.
Now moving on to the health sector, Minister of Health Dr. Ramesh Patirana stressed the need to reform the process of importing medical devices to Sri Lanka and went on to say that the process of registration will be digitized. The minister added that the Medical Supplies Division, State Pharmaceuticals Corporation of Sri Lanka and the National Medicines Regulatory Authority are instructed to adhere to the necessary globally recognized protocols applicable for registration. The minister's comments come at a time when certain elements of the country's health sector are at the center of national attention, as the legal matter surrounding the import of the controversial vials of the human immunoglobulin vaccine is currently being taken up at the Maliga Kanda Magistrates Court.
The CEO Forum 2024, organised by the Sri Lanka Chamber of Medical Devices Industry, was held under the patronage of Minister of Health Dr. Ramesh Patirana recently.
Medical devices importation. Yes, we need to reform certain areas in relation to regulation. That's why we have a new stewardship at the National Medicine Regulatory Authority. They are looking into those aspects acutely, and they are solving certain issues as well. So the registration wise, they will streamline. We were concentrating mainly for the re-registration of the devices during last couple of months time, I would say, to ensure that we clear the backlog in relation to clearing of some of the devices and also the pharmaceutical, the medicaments to the country. On the long run, we have a plan to digitize the process. In that regard, we have spoken to many different agencies. In relation to the Medical Supplies Division matter that you have raised, yes, we have a concern. Other nitty-gritties covering that particular agency, they were also going through mill during last couple of weeks' time. At the Ministry, we have given very clear instructions to the Medical Supplies Division, and to the State Pharmaceutical Corporation, and to the Medicinal Regulatory Authority to ensure to fast track whenever it's necessary, but to ensure that they adhere to the necessary protocols, including certain times they have to look into the WHO protocols to ensure if they are issuing a waiver of registration, to adhere to the world-renowned, world-known protocols to ensure that all of us wouldn't fall into that trap again. Please be ensured, all of us, starting from the Secretary of Health, myself, to the other people at the Health Ministry, you try to streamline and to strengthen the process on the long run, for which we need your support as well. They had been trying to streamline to ensure that, make that process a transparent one. Through that, yes, it will take little time for us to clear the backlog, but also at the same time we have strengthened, facilitated your payment mechanism, and also there is a transparency in such process.
Now we have back-to-back political developments for you tonight. As the presidential race heats up and gradually gains momentum, the UNP has decided to appoint President Ranil Wickremesinghe as the presidential candidate of a broader alliance. This was stated by Governor of the Sabaragamuwa Province, Navin Disanayake, while addressing the party's K-Galle District Convention. Meanwhile, Senior Deputy Leader of the UNP, Akila Viraj highlighted the need to take the country forward with the current set of reforms, adding that if reversed, the country will fall into ruin.
The K-Galle District Convention of the United National Party was held today at the K-Galle District Municipal Council Auditorium.
ගරු රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා පුළුල් සන්ධානයක අපේ එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ අපේක්ෂකයා හැටියට මෙම අවස්ථාවේ ගෙනාව යෝජනාව මා ස්ථිර කරන අතර රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා නැවතත් මේ රටේ ජනාධිපති කරවීමේ දැවැන්ත සටන අපි කෑගලු දිස්ත්‍රික්කෙන් පටන් ගන්නවා.
මැරෙන්න ගිය ලෙඩා ICU එකෙන් එළියට ගත්ත රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මැතිතුමා ආපහු ICU එකට දාන්න ගියොත් මේ ලෙඩාව මරණයෙන් කාටවත් බේරගන්න බැරි වෙයි මිත්‍රවරු. මහරෝහල ඉදිරි පිටින් ඉන්නේ ලෙඩා. හැබැයි මෙතනින් එහාට මේ ගමන යන්න දුන්නේ නැත්නම් මේකෙන් විනාශයක් මේ රට වෙනවා මිත්‍රවරු.
Now, meanwhile, opposition leader Sajith Premadasa assured that a presidential task force to empower women will be established if he is elected as the president of Sri Lanka. He made these comments while addressing the Kandy District Women's Convention of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. Meanwhile, the party's senior deputy chairman Lakshman Kiriyalla says the SJB government will remove taxes imposed by the government on essential goods.
Kandy District Women's Convention of the main opposition, the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, was held today under the patronage of its leader Sajith Premadasa.
දැන් මේ රජය කරන්නේ මොකද්ද? රට බංකොලොත් කරලා සල්ලි නැති වුණාම අත්‍යවශ්‍ය භාණ්ඩ වලින් බදු අය කරනවා. අපි තමුන්නාන්සේලාට පොරොන්දුවක් දෙනවා. අපේ රජයක් යටතේ අපි අත්‍යවශ්‍ය භාණ්ඩ වලින් බදු අය කරන එක නවත්තලා බදු ආදායම වෙනත් විදියකට අපි ලබා ගන්නවා කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේදී තමුන්නාන්සේලාට මතක් කරනවා. මේ රටේ ජනාධිපතිවරයා හැටියට කාන්තාව වෙනුවෙන් ජනාධිපති කාර්ය සාධක බලකායක් ස්ථාපනය කරලා කාන්තාව තිරිය ශක්තිය ලබා දෙන මහ පොළොවේ යථාර්ථයක් බවට අපි මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල ක්‍රියාත්මක කරන්නට අදහස් කරනවා. මම මේ හැම අම්මා කෙනෙකුටම කියන්න කැමතියි. දේශපාලඥයාගේ දරුවට පෞද්ගලික ශාස්ත්‍රයෙන් ලැබෙන සැලකිල්ලම රජයේ සෞඛ්‍ය ශාස්ත්‍රයේ මේ රටේ බිහි වෙන හැම දුවෙකුටම පුතෙකුටම ඒ වරම ලබා දීමේ වගකීම මම බාර ගන්නවායි කියන එක මම මේ අවස්ථාවේ ප්‍රකාශ කරනවා.
Now, on the other end of the political spectrum, member of the National People's Power Lanka claims that the country demands a complete transformation sprouting from its grassroots. Meanwhile, leader of the NPP, Anurukumara Dissanayake, claims that no one has the justifiable right to mislead the general public anymore.
The Kandy District Convention of the National People's Power was held today under the patronage of its leader, Anurukumara Dissanayake.
දැන් අපිට කල්පනා කරන්න ජයග්‍රහණය ගැන නෙමෙයි. ජයග්‍රහණය කරාට පස්සේ රට ගොඩ නැගීම ගැන. ඡන්දයක් තියලා දිනන්න පුළුවන්. කවුරුත් දිනුවේ 69 ලක්ෂයක් ගත්තේ. අපිට දිනුවට මදි. ඒකයි මේ කියන්නේ. මට හදන්නත් ඕන. දැන් මේක වෙනස් කරන්න ඕන නිසා හැමෝම කියනෝනේ බිම් මට්ටමේ සිට සම්පූර්ණ පරිවර්තනයකට මේක ලක් කරන්න ඕන.
විවිධ සාකච්ඡා ගොඩනගමින් තිබෙනවා ඡන්දය තියයිද නැද්ද කියලා. ඔක්තෝබර් 17න් පස්සේ එක දවසක්වත් රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහට ජනාධිපති හැටියට අපේ රටේ වැඩ කරන්න බෑ. ඒ නිසා මේ රනිල් මාර දහං ගැටකාරයා කියනෝනේ. මාහර ගැටකාරයා බොරු හොඳේ. බලන්න ඔක්තෝබර් 17 වෙනිදා කලින් ඉතාම සාමකාමී ලෙස රැවටීමකට භාජනය වූ ජනතාවක්. පීඩාවෙන් පීඩාවට පත් වුණු ජනතාවක්. අපේක්ෂාවන් අහිමුණු තරුණයන්. අනාගතයක් නැති දරුවන්. බෙහෙත් නැති ලෙඩ්ඩුන්. මේව රටක් තිබෙන්නේ. අපිට කිසිසේත් මේ ජනතාව රැවටීමකට යුක්තිසහගත අයිතියක් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා අපි ඔබට සපත කරන්නම් සහතික කරන්නම්. අපි මේ රටේ මේ රටේ ජනතාවත් විදුලි කෝච්චියේ නංවන නව යුගයක් ආරම්භ කළ යුතුයි.
Now, in other political developments, the operational leader of the New Alliance, Anura Priyadarshana, says that the public should be apprised of every party's national agenda as the time of securing political success through promises has withered away into history. He made these remarks at the New Alliance's Colombo district rally, where its leader Nimal Lanka urged all progressive leftists of the country to rally around what he called the greatest political alliance in the history of the country so far.
The Colombo District Public Rally of the New Alliance, which pledged its support to President Ranil Wickremesinghe, was held today at the Hyde Park ground in Colombo. The rally was attended by the founder of the alliance, Nimal Lanka, its operational leader, Anurup Priyadarshana, Minister of Trade, Nalin Fernando, Minister of Education, Dr. Susil Premajayantha, and several other ministers.
අද සාකච්ඡා වෙනවා ජනාධිපතිවරණයක් ගැන. ඔව් ආණ්ඩුක්‍රම ව්‍යවස්ථාව අනුව ජනාධිපතිවරණ නීතිය අනුව ඔක්තෝබර් මාසේ 17 වෙනිදා කලින් ජනාධිපතිවරණය තියන්න ඕනේ. මේ මැතිවරණ තියන්න ඕනේ විතරක් නෙවෙයි. පැහැදිලි වැඩපිළිවෙලක් ඉදිරිපත් කළා ඒ තියෙන ඕනෑම මැතිවරණයක් ජයග්‍රහණය කිරීම සඳහා ඕනේ කරන පසුබිම ජනතාව ඒකරාජ කිරීම අපි ආරම්භ කළා තියෙනවා නව සංධානය තුල. අපි විශේෂයෙන්ම කියනවා ජනතා විමුක්ති පෙරමුණට එයා විශාල ආර්ථික ප්‍රතිපත්ති ඉස්සරහට අරන් යන්න කතා කරනවා. ඒ වගේම ආර්ථික දැක්මක් ගැන කතා කරනවා. මම නම් අද වෙනකන් දැක්කේ නෑ කොහොමද මේ ආර්ථිකය ගොඩනගන්නේ ඊට මොකද්ද දෙන විසඳුම කියලා.
අද අපිට තියෙන්නේ ආර්ථික යුද්ධයක්. වෙනදා දේශපාලනය කරනකොට ලේසි පොරොන්දු දෙන්න. නමුත් මේ පොරොන්දු දේශපාලනය අද කරන්න බෑ කාටවත්. අද මහජනයට අපිට කියන්න වෙනවා අපි කරන්නේ මොකද්ද කියලා. මේ ආර්ථිකය ගොඩගන්නේ කොහොමද? එහෙමනම් අපි මේ ආර්ථිකය සම්පූර්ණයෙන්ම පෞද්ගලික අංශය පැත්තට අපි හරවන්න ඕනේ. මතක තියාගන්න අපේ රට දියුණු කරන්න බෑ. අපි ආයෝජන ගෙනාවේ නැත්තම්. ඒ නිසාම අපි ඉල්ලා හිටනවා තමුන්නාන්සලගෙන් කරුණාකරලා මේ අපේ දේශපාලන ගමම්මක පිළිගන්න.
මේ රටේ ඇදෙන දැවැන්තම සන්ධානය මං හිතනවා මාර්තු මාසය තුල ඇදෙනවා. ඒ සන්ධානය වටා මේ රටේ වාමාංශික ප්‍රගතිශීලී සියලු ජනතාවට ඒකරාශි වෙන්න කියලා මං තමුන්නාන්සලට මේ අවස්ථාවේ ඉඳලා කියනවා.
Now in other news, Colombo's Navam Mawatha was lit up with lights and culture last night as the Navam Mahaperahara of the historic Ganga Rama temple, dubbed Colombo's cultural spectacle, toured the streets. The 45th annual Navam Mahaperahara was witnessed by many devotees, local and international, as majestic elephants and dancers paraded the streets. Incumbent President Ranil Wickremesinghe and former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa were bestowed the honour of placing the sacred casket on the main tusker, thus commencing the procession. Now let us take you to the Navam Mawatha to relive the spectacle of last evening.
The 45th annual Navam Mahaperahara festival of the Ganga Rama temple brought colour and light to Colombo's Navam Mawatha last night. President Ranil Wickremesinghe and former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa placed the sacred casket on the main tusker. Deputy Chief Incumbent of the Ganga Rama temple, Venerable Kirinde Asajitera, also graced the occasion as the sacred casket was placed on the main tusker.
කොළඹ නවම් පෙරහැර ආරම්භ කරේ ප්‍රේමදාස ජනාධිපතිතුමා අපේ පොඩි හාමුදුරුවගේ ඉල්ලීමක් පදනම් කරගෙන. අද එනකොට අවුරුදු 45කට පස්සේ ඊට වඩා වෙනස් පරිසරයක් තියෙනවා. මෙතන පෙනෙන්නේ අපේ බැතිමතුන්ගේ ශක්තිය. අපි එකට එකතු වෙලා අද මේ විශාල පෙරහැර මේ ප්‍රධාන පෙරහැරක් මේ සංවිධානය කරලා තියෙනවා.
The Perahara procession toured the streets thereafter. Esteemed Chief Incumbent of the Ganga Rama temple, Venerable Galbadanyani Sarathera, who had been ill for a long period of time, was also present to witness the Navam Mahaperahara festival. Crowds gathered in large numbers to witness the magical night as the street came alive with dancers and drummers from the central, southern, Sabaragamuwa, northern and eastern provinces performing in unison and depicting Sri Lanka's cultural diversity. As the procession proceeded, a tense situation erupted when several elephants and tuskers went on a rampage. Some elephants and tuskers were taken out of the procession thereafter. However, no injuries were reported from the incident.
Welcome back. Now, the 67th session of the Manusadharana Medical Clinic series was held today at the Arantalav Buddhist Monks Memorial Temple. During today's session, patients suffering from kidney disease were identified and were directed for proper medical care. Concurrently, an eye examination clinic was also held by the Sri Lanka Optometric Association, where free spectacles were provided. Further, the program was attended by many people in the area. In addition, sports equipment were also distributed among the children of rural schools. This medical clinic was sponsored by the Ragama Leeson's Hospital. Now, the Police Special Task Force has apprehended a Sri Lankan army deserter this morning. suspected to be involved in the Mahbagi shooting incident which occurred earlier this week. Meanwhile, the 48-year-old woman was hacked to death in the Valacheni area last night. With that, here's a look at more news across the island in brief.
A Sri Lanka army deserter was arrested this morning by the Police Special Task Force for his alleged involvement in the Mahbagi shooting incident which occurred earlier this week. The arrestee is said to be one of the main suspects wanted in the murder case. According to the STF, the suspect was a corporal attached to the 4th Battalion of the Gamunu Watch Regiment at the army camp in Shenkala Dibatiklo. The suspect had fled the camp when the STF officers arrived on site. However, he was later taken into custody at the Ampara area. In the meantime, a 48-year-old woman was hacked to death in the Valacheni area last night. According to the police, the murder was executed by one of the relatives of the deceased over a personal dispute. Further investigations revealed that the suspect has escaped the area following the murder. In other local news, a fire broke out at a shop on the New Kolonnava Road in Obesekirapura this morning. Firefighters of the Sri Jayawardhanapura Kota Municipal Council were deployed to contain the fire. However, the cause behind the blaze has not yet been recovered.
Now in your top business story for the evening, the first large methanol-powered container ship of the integrated logistics company Maersk called on the Colombo Container Terminal today. The vessel is named after Anne Maersk McKinney Ugla, the chairman of the AP Muller Foundation and AP Muller Holding, and is christened by her eldest granddaughter. The 16,220-foot equivalent units Anne Maersk is the first in a series of 18 large methanol-powered ships ordered by the Danish shipping company. The Anne Maersk will be deployed in Maersk's AE7 service between Asia and Europe from February. The vessel was fueled with green methanol for its maiden voyage and will continue to work diligently on sourcing green fuels for 2024 to 2025. Now in your corporate news, Sanasa General Insurance and PULA recently entered into a Memorandum of Understanding to provide index-based insurance solutions to farmers island-wide. Meanwhile, Windforce PLC issued a disclosure outlining key dealings carried out by the directors of its company. With that, here's a look at more news across the corporate realm in brief.
Sanasa General Insurance Company Limited and PULA, an agricultural insurance and technology company, recently signed a Memorandum of Understanding to provide index-based insurance solutions to farmers island-wide. This collaboration will enable PULA to provide the necessary technical support for the agricultural insurance facilities provided by Sanasa General Insurance and provide them with access to globally recognized reinsurers. Further, Sanasa General Insurance will also be able to access globally recognized insurance companies through this MOU. In the meantime, Windforce PLC recently issued the dealings carried out by the directors of its company. According to the disclosure, 313,500 shares held by JBSL Vimalasena, a chief executive officer of the company, have been disposed. The relevant dealing was notified to the board of directors on the 22nd of February. In other corporate news, Standard Capital PLC announced several changes made to its directorate. In its corporate disclosure, the company announced the resignation of Ahmed Bassam Al-Niyama, who served as non-independent non-executive director of the company effective from the 18th of February. In addition, the company announced the appointment of Vidurasi Valavitia to the board of directors as non-independent executive director and CEO with effect from the 18th of February.
Now in your latest sports news, Sri Lanka's T20 captain Wanidhu Hasaranga was charged with a 2-match suspension after his accumulated demerit points reached 5 within a 24-month period following his latest breach of the ICC Code of Conduct, for which he also received a 50% fine from his match fees and 3 demerit points. Hasaranga's accumulation of 5 demerit points results in a conversion to 2 suspension points. As a result, Hasaranga will be suspended from participating in Sri Lanka's first T20 internationals against Bangladesh next month. The incident behind the suspension unfolded at the end of the third T20 international between Sri Lanka and Afghanistan, when Hasaranga approached umpire Lyndon Hannibal and criticized the umpire's decision to not call a high full toss delivery a no ball. In addition, Afghanistan player Ramanullah Gurbaz has also been penalized with 5% of his match fees for breaching level 1 of the ICC Code of Conduct in the same match. Now, as March Madness approaches, big match fever spreads. In the first of many to come, Isipatana College scored 250 runs for the first innings in their big match encounter against Thurston College today. At stumps, Thurston was at 53 runs for the loss of a wicket. Now let's have a look at some updates from the 61st Battle of the Brothers.
The 61st Battle of Brothers, the annual two-day cricket encounter between Thurston College Colombo and Isipatana College Colombo commenced today at the Sinhalese Sports Club grounds. After winning the toss, Thurston skipper Vyas Devmika elected to bat first. For the first innings, Isipatana scored 250 runs for the loss of 9 wickets and declared the innings. Tarushka Ashel, with an outstanding knock, scored 102 runs, while Chanul Dineth remained unbeaten at 22. Thurston skipper Vyas Devmika, who was brilliant with the ball, bagged 6 wickets for 76 runs. At stumps, Thurston College, who was batting their first innings, was at a score of 53 runs for the loss of a wicket.
And with that, we wrap up tonight's edition of Other Derana First at 9. Stay in touch with us on www.otherderana.lk for the latest developments around the clock. Thank you. Have a great night.
For news and information you can trust 24 hours a day, visit otherderana.lk.